Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Do you practice smart? This is something that you owe it to yourself to see if you can put a check mark next to each one of these words. I love this, and I think it could be applied to any area of your life, but especially playing. When we think about a New Year's resolution, so many times that first thing that comes to mind is dieting and that we're going to change our ways because of a day on the calendar. It's a tough thing, but if you haven't ever looked at a resolution of this nature when it comes to practicing whatever instrument it is that you play, your structure around that really does matter. So if you can put a check mark next to each of these, that first word, specific, I did a video about that a couple of years ago with the intentions of each one of these categories being a video of its own, but realistically, I'm not going to get around to that. So I'm going to package it all together. But specific, just common sense. When you sit down with the mandolin, do you really have a goal in mind, a specific thing that you're going to target that you want to be better at when you get back up from that session? And it could be working on your tremolo technique. It could be a melody that you're trying to execute better, improvising over a chord progression, whatever it is. Have a specific goal that you're going to target when you sit down with the mandolin, and it makes an amazing difference. Okay, measurable, as we move on to the letter M. This one's tough. I think a healthy way to approach this is to measure your growth in 3-month intervals. If you record yourself playing a fiddle tune that you can get through, but your execution really isn't there, then 3 months later, if you've practiced it a couple of good sessions every week and you're better, you record yourself again 3 months later and you can hear the improvement. It gives us a reason to celebrate those victories like that. I think that's really important, and a lot of people don't make a big enough deal out of measuring their growth to get the good morale and to have the ambition to go for that next 3 months with a real belief in yourself that it's going to make a difference because you've heard that difference in your playing. So as we move on, attainable. This one also, you got to be real with yourself. Is what you're working on attainable to you at this point in your journey of learning to play the mandolin? If you go in too far with a fiddle tune or something that's really beyond your left and right hand coordination at this point, if you haven't built up to that level of speed, whatever it is, it could even be a chord melody that you're trying to learn, and the muscle memory for those chords just isn't there yet. Whatever type of mandolin it is that you're trying to play, whatever style you're into, there's going to be this progression of easier tunes working up to intermediate and then more advanced things. Be sure that you're in the category that you really belong in, because I think sometimes we are not intermediate players when we think we are. And I'm gonna do a video about that in the near future as well. Relevant, as we move on to the letter R. This one's really a big deal because I see a lot of my students that are in regional bands or their jam sessions that they go to. And so they have this body of material that they really should be focused on, but what they play and what they practice isn't always relevant to that atmosphere that they're going to be in musically. So I think that's a good thing to ask yourself also, is if you're trying to do some really advanced arpeggio exercise or something that is going to be great for your playing, and you need to be doing it to develop a connection to the fretboard, but is it really going to help you like 3 or 4 days later for the musical situation that you're in at that point? If it is with a regional band or whatever that you're into. So make sure that what you practice is relevant to what you're trying to play or to the most immediate thing that you feel like is coming up. That leads us right into the time-based or time-sensitive letter T. This one's important too, because when you have that calendar date, it could be if you're playing at church. That's something that I do. occasion throughout the year, I'll have a handful of opportunities to play at our church. And when I know that this gig is coming up, and this is so far removed from what from playing with Third Time Out, or in a bluegrass setting, or even being on a recording session, it's completely different with drums and keyboard and way bigger sound. So I'm trying to find my niche in this music where I stay out of everybody else's way. I'm able to look at that date on the calendar and know that I need to be prepared for that certain material by that point. That's a really great thing. And that time sensitive element could be so many different things. If you were playing a coffee house gig, if one of your buddies is a songwriter, something of that nature, and you have that material to work on, when you see that date on the calendar, it changes the intention that we play with. So try to create that for yourself. Things that are obvious. If you were going to try out for a band, you knew that was coming up in 3 weeks, you'd be trying to put all of your eggs in that basket to get ready for that audition. Anything like that you can come up with to create a time-sensitive element, that makes us practice with a completely different mentality. It just kind of makes us go for it. So hopefully you'll take my advice. This isn't something that I've applied to my playing early. I never heard of this until a few years ago, but I always did try to, I used to write things down that I had worked on, or if I had a thought of something that, like a scale that I felt like I needed to know better, that it was going to help me improvise over a tune or a chord progression, and that thought happens, and then we're about to go on stage or something, I would make myself a note and leave it in my mandolin case as a reminder that here's something that I need to work on, so that you could even, as a week is coming up, if you know that you're going to get to practice 3 nights that week, if you already had your plan for what you were going to practice for all 3 of those nights and begin to build that kind of a mentality towards your practice time, it'll make an amazing difference in how you feel about your mandolin playing and how fast we're able to improve and get to the place that we want to be. So I hope this helps, guys.